Thank you. Hi, everyone. Very warm welcome to this panel on building for India's SMEs. We have two of what I would call SME lending stalwarts who started much before all the buzz around Indian SMEs and digitization way back, Sanjay and Harsh. We'll try and keep this panel conversational. We'll also try and budget some time in the end for some Q&A, but maybe to start off, I can have the panelists introduce themselves. So maybe Sanjay, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mridul. Hello, viewers, and good evening. As a BTech alumnus from IIT Bombay, it is my privilege to be sharing this experience with you today. And I hope, along with the distinguished participants, Harsh is a very accomplished participant from the SME space. We should be able to help you on our discussion today and bring some reasonable clarity on how we can build a solution that can benefit the excluded, unorganized business across India. Mridul, would you like me to also introduce my background?
That would be fantastic, Sanjay.
Okay, just let me just take a minute.
I'm not going to embarrass you and ask you your IIT batch.
Yeah, many of you would not have been born at that time. I moved to banking and finance after working for a couple of years as an engineer at Tata Motors. It used to be called Telco in those years. And in the computer-aided design in the early 80s. And then I went into banking and finance, and I'm a founder and managing director of iFinance. We are driven in iFinance with the belief that we want to serve and fulfill the working capital needs of micro-scale enterprises or companies that lie at the bottom of the economic hierarchy. These are the ones that are unorganized, that are excluded by the banks and formal finance companies. In the last 7 years, we have provided business loans to over 200,000 unique business customers. We use a very strong stack of technology and artificial intelligence models in our underwriting and operation, but at the same time, we also have a branch presence in over 200 locations across India. So this is also equally critical in fulfilling the needs of our customer segment for having a human touch or a human face in the relationship.
Thanks a lot, Sanjay.
Over to you, Harsh.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mridul. Thanks, Sanjay sir. Thank you guys for inviting us on this platform overall. I basically run Learningkart. I am CEO and co-founder of Learningkart Technologies. Similar segment as Sanjay sir suggested, I also have a background of banking where I worked in small businesses before, then after doing my CA, then did my MBA, then was in corporate banking for some time. But small businesses always had my calling. Like I was always intrigued of how they do their business, how they source funds. And I also come from a business family. So seeing my cousins, relatives all work around money and everything was always exciting. So we also started our company in 2014 overall, catering to small and micro businesses. Our typical borrower age range is from 23 to 45 in age. Overall average age is 33, 34. Our customer is first generation, second generation entrepreneur in smaller towns and cities running businesses like a coaching class, computer academy, kirana store, mithai store, and similar stuff. One thing about our businessmen is that they kind of bank their receipts. So one of the critical documents for us is their banking data, which we get online and live from them overall, evaluate them and give them the money. Another critical differentiation is kind of 80% of our borrowers are educated in the sense that they are BA, BCom, BSc graduates in smaller towns and cities and running these businesses. We overall basically have given out close to 125,000 loans till now, more than 7,000 crores overall pan India. We've done these loans in 1,400 cities. We are location agnostic. So we have centralized operations where we originate these loans, evaluate and deliver money. The money goes and comes back online for us overall. We just do one kind of loan, basically a small duration, right risk pricing and a right loan amount kind of term loan structure to small businesses for the working capital and other requirements overall. And that's how we've built it. We as an institution have always followed a philosophy of kind of inch wide and mile deep. So we've identified a very narrow niche for ourselves overall, and we've been trying to digitize it as much as possible and interact and engage more on digital media with the customers. So that's how we tried and are building our businesses.
Thank you, Harsh, for that introduction. Just to round up introductions, I work with Elevation Capital. Elevation Capital has been investing in India for about 20 years now. I've spent about 10 years at Elevation, and I lead most of our work in fintech and financial services. So very privileged here to have partnered with Sanjay very early on, and very foolish to have missed partnering with Harsh early on. So that's the two.
It was our loss, Mridul, not yours.
The
Basically, we still have the best of them.
To end the spectrum. But thank you so much, guys, for the introduction. Maybe I'll kick it off with the panel topic, right, which is building for India's SMEs. And again, I always feel like SMEs is this big umbrella term which encompasses a lot of segments, businesses, size of customers. So maybe worthwhile, if both of you speak a little about your core segment of SMEs and what was that unique insight or unique trait you saw in the SMEs you cater to, and therefore how does that help you run this business so well and scale up so much? And maybe we can go in the reverse order now, and Harsh, you can get started first.
Sure, Mridul, thanks a lot. So I think, Mridul, very valid question. I think we in India, when we say MSME or SME, right, overall, we include all micro, small, medium enterprises. And the breadth and width of that is very high, right? Micro could be an enterprise who is doing revenues of up to 1 to 2 crores. Maybe small could be up to 25, 50 crores. And medium could be up to 500,000 crores, right? The needs of these enterprises are very different. The requirements of credit products, the requirement of loans, the requirement of products from banks are very different. So what's happened is in India, typically overall small and medium has been catered to in a reasonable form and fashion, right? Because they have the requisite data in terms of financial statements, tax returns, and other information that banks and everything require. I think the moment we come to, like Sanjay sir also said, the moment we come to micro and small businesses, right? Overall, the information asymmetry increases. These are the people who don't have the conventional banking documents, as we call it, financial statements, tax returns, and everything. So that's where in 2014, when we started Lending Card, we overall thought, why not look at this information asymmetry as an opportunity, right? And look at what kind of information can these guys give us, and can we go ahead and build alternate credit models on top of that. For us, it was a good learning in the sense that OnDeck and Lending Club went for an IPO in 2014, right? So their SEC documents were very readily available, and you could just go and underline what all you wanted to put in your PPT and go ahead and build that. So that was quite good. I think Funding Circle in UK was happening, Lufax, Liangrong were happening in China. So you could get a lot of tons of information, and we started realizing that maybe alternate lending models or alternate data-based models could be feasible. So we started looking at that, and banking data came out as a good data point for us, which we could go ahead, digitally connect from our borrowers, evaluate it. Furthermore, we also realized that every business has an operating cycle, right? Debtors, creditors, how the money moves, transforms, what are the margins, what are debtors period, creditors period, margins, and everything. And we also realized we could build a knowledge base of all of that. Right, knowledge base of all of that. So today, if a typical textile borrower comes to us, we would know what's his operating cycle, what are the margins he's earning, how much will he get as a cash discount when he pays upfront or stuff like that. So with banking data corroborating his revenues and money that he could make, with operating business data giving us operating cycles and everything, further statutory discipline also coming out through his tax filing or anything that he does and everything. So all these things finally kind of led us to create alternate data lending model, where we reached out to the smaller guys and started evaluating them. Another important thing that we've been solving, and I think that gets less talked about in MSME space, is also origination, right? We all feel that there is an umpteen demand of loans, and people will come to you and you can give loans to them. But rightful origination is one of the critical problems to be solved for MSME. When I say rightful origination, it's reaching out to people and getting rightful documents available from them to evaluate them and then give a loan to them, right? And I think it's been 7 years now. We've been solving that for ourselves, and a lot of ecosystem has been solving for that as well. That how do you connect to the borrower? How do you go about collecting the rightful banking data, industry data and everything from him, or maybe you create yourself and then go ahead and evaluate it. I think that's where we've created a niche for ourselves. So basically our borrower whether he comes from Guwahati, Jammu Kashmir, Kanyakumari, or Jamnagar, basically applies on our mobile app, mobile web, or regular web platform. He gives us the banking data or uploads the banking data on our platform. He gets evaluated basically, and then we give him out a sanction. So before sanction, kind of, we don't take any document from him. It's all online. Sanction goes it. And then if he goes through our eKYC, NACH, and e-sign process, then there is no documentation again required. But if that's not done overall, then you need to have third parties who can go ahead and close the documentation process and everything. So I think, again, the realization, when we started out, one of the questions that Mridul, we had to solve was, will people go digital, right? Will they come digital? Will they submit the banking data? I think conveniency and transparency of process was super important for this segment. And when we realized that our segment was kind of an educated young entrepreneurs, he was willing to submit his banking data. He was willing to interact and engage with you on mobile devices, take sanction and pay back as well. That was a good surprise. So that's there. So I think origination was one thing that we realized if we could crack it digitally, it will work wonderfully well for us. And obviously also creating models on alternate data and building them across, having different versions of them through algos and everything come out has helped us in building our business. So that's been kind of two realizations that have helped us build, develop, and grow our business. Sanjay, sir, to you.
Excellent summarization, Harsh. See, I just wanted for the audience to understand that when we say SME, and rightfully pointed by her that it is so broad a terminology that it's very, very important to define it, because in a business, you cannot understand a business unless you can define the target segment in a very refined, very focused manner. The MSME department under Government of India defines as anything that has a revenue of less than 5 crores as micro. Now, I would say that if you look at this segment constitutes 95% of the 6.3 crore enterprises that are there in the country. So 6 crore enterprises belong to the micro world itself. So it is where if we solve a problem, it will have a huge benefit across the market, across the country. Within the micro definition, I would still like to split it into two categories, because remember that someone who has an earning of 1 lakh a month or a turnover of 1 lakh a month versus someone who has a turnover of 5 crores, which will translate to almost close to 30-40 lakhs a month, they're very different entities. So within the micro, there is, I would say, a nano segment, which typically goes up to 1 crore of turnover in a year, or you could say you would start from 2-3 lakhs of turnover going up to 7-8 lakhs in a month. And then there's a next segment which has more than that 8-9 lakhs of turnover. And these are people who have some sort of bank statement, some sort of balance sheet, etc. And in some ways, Harsh probably looks at the upper segment where you can get documents, etc. And therefore, the focus should be on making the process efficient, helping the customer become efficient, making him quality, moving him to quality, because that's the only way we will compete against our northern neighbors in terms of becoming a manufacturing hub or a competitive country.
Yes.
The segment that iFinance looks at is the nano segment, which is the segment that typically produces almost close to 90% of the employment of the country, leaving aside the agricultural employment. So non-agri employment, it constitutes 90%. And the focus in this segment is not to say that can we do it digitally, and we have not been able to, because while we have all the tech stacks, the entire process is paperless, but the customer still wants a person to come and help him fill in the application. So we have an assisted model. We have a branch. We have 200 branches plus across India. And we have used technology to bring efficiency within that assisted branch model. And the approach that we have and the problem that we are solving for the country in some ways is about creating employment, giving them funds where employment can be generated. India is a country where 1 crore youth join our workforce every year. And if we don't solve for that problem also, there's going to be a chaos in the country. So I think it's very important to understand that this is, if you want to solve a large problem, this is the problem to solve in many ways.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
No, that is very true. And it's such an interesting complementary contrast, which is the kind of segments you straddle, the operating models you have. that I'm sure there's a lot to learn and pick up from each other. The other part I wanted to pick on, Sanjay and Harsh, was around, there's a definition of SMEs, different ways in which you source, originate, underwrite. And then there's the whole narrative on fintech, especially in lending, right? Like how much of it is tech, how much of it is fin, and how beneficial is tech? Do you overgo on tech and therefore lose some sense of finance? So I would love to hear some bit from you both on role of technology in the way you cater to the way you defined your segment is, and then some conscious choices you've made on using tech and some conscious choices you've actually made on not using tech because you believe a contra approach will be better. I would love to hear some philosophy and evidence around that.
Yeah, sure. I think, let me tag this first. Without any doubt, there is serious value from fintech models in the micro enterprise lending space, in any lending space, and even more so in micro enterprise lending space. There is tremendous value of fintech without any doubts in my mind, because underwriting in these situations is not simple. It's not a simple thing where you look at the credit score or you have ready-made balance sheets available, etc., etc. And therefore, the method to underwrite is crucial. This is a really challenging environment. You could have a customer who could be a manufacturer who's manufacturing shoes in Agra, or it could be someone who's making cricket bats in Meerut. It could be someone trading in furniture in Channapatna. So these are the sort of places. And here, not only is assessing of the data very difficult because it's not standard data as happens in banking. And also there is a lot of possibility of serious fraud happening on the field. And a fintech model can help on all both these areas. A machine learning model can help bring better objectivity compared to the classical approaches. And there's no doubt that it does help. And there are lots of places that we continue to use machine learning and data science. We have over 200,000 loans, as I said. So we have enough data points to really bring in the power of machine learning. And I can use a couple of anecdotes to help you understand that. In the COVID times, with the huge disruption, we have a machine learning model that actually predicts that which is the customer which is more likely to bounce. And we divide them into 10 deciles. And I think for the people who are least likely to bounce, there's no point in wasting your precious collection resource on calling the person or going on the field and visiting him. In those cases, you just send a digital message, either through WhatsApp or SMS, and you'll find that the customers do pay. But whereas people who are at the bottom of that hierarchy, you got to get them early and you got to collect. And I think these are things that can help an organization do well in a distressing time like the COVID disruption that we saw. So models like this are very, very essential, because if not for these models, maybe we may not have done as well as we have done in terms of managing the problem, despite all the gurus of the financial world saying that the micro enterprise segment is going to get completely wiped out in this segment. But the thing is that you can hear from Harsh also that that we have done fine as businesses. So I think the financial role in lending of these models is there, not just in underwriting. It could be in collection. It is also in sourcing of customers. And I think my sense of this whole thing is that in the first instance, it is very important that the business model that anyone is pursuing should solve a real big problem for a large target segment. It should not be an imagined problem. So a lot of people think that, oh, let's do fintech and let's solve a problem, and the problem does not exist. So first is that if you're solving a real problem, you've made a good start. And I think the second thing is that the solution should be complete. There have been fintechs who have come in saying that, oh, we'll underwrite very well, but they haven't focused on collection. So lending is not something that you can do very well in origination and that is it. You have to be good in origination. You have to be good in funding. How do you generate funds? You have to be good in collection also. So I think the problem should be genuine and relevant. And second is your solution should be good. Once you have these two things, then fintech becomes a very powerful tool in solving those.
Sure. No, I think Sanjay sir, you covered most of it. I think very relevant points. I think lending does appear exotic to people, right? It does appear exotic to people. People feel that it's easy, right? Because the demand is omnipresent. But I think lending is, and where people forget is lending is a transaction where the transaction starts when the loan is given and only ends when the last 3 or 4 EMIs are received, right? If you don't receive in a 36-month or a 24-month loan, last 3, 4, 5 EMIs, you don't make money, right? Till the 19th or 20th EMI in 24-month loan and till the 30th EMI or 31st EMI in 36-month loan, you're basically just covering your principal back, and the earnings only happen in last 4-5 loans. So I think for us as well, Mridul and other participants, basically when we started out looking at this segment, we kind of realized that this segment had 3 constraints. One, access to finance to this segment was not available pan-India, right? If you look at the largest of the banks and NBFCs, they were only catering to small businesses or micro or medium businesses or medium businesses. Micro and nano, like Sanjay sir said, don't get catered much to from a lot of these institutions. But small and medium was also getting catered to maybe in top 250 or 300 locations out of the 5,000 or 4,000, 5,000 town cities that we have. The second constraint was loan amounts, right? Giving small loan amounts for small duration, the unit economics was what we had to solve for. Similarly, like we also kind of realized, like Sanjay sir suggested, that an average loan amount of 4-5 lakhs for us, right? Less than 10 lakhs. If you have to give it for a shorter duration, the outstanding loan amount is pretty low, and the absolute earning on a loan is quite low, and you have to cover all your costs within that loan if the customer doesn't pick a second loan or renewal from you. Thirdly, again, we kind of realized from these people was that the duration required for these loans was kind of normally less than 36 months, right? Because they don't want a sword hanging at their head for a longer duration, and they were reasonably like they didn't want too large loans and single family members. Like a lot of our customers are proprietorships, right? Young entrepreneurs having young children, teenage children, and educated. So when we were thinking of all of this, the idea came out was we had either 2 choices. Like one, Sanjay sir suggested, yeah, it could be an assisted model, and which also works wonderfully well, and you have a lot of control on those processes, systems, and everything. But again, the second choice for us was we kind of realized that if we had to go behind the educated entrepreneurs or reasonably people who would go online in next 5, 10, 15 years in the country, could we create a digital model out of it? We were more influenced by what had happened in developed economies where the digital medium was picking up, and we kind of realized that maybe sourcing would be much easier for us if we were digital. Essentially, underwriting would be much more easier if we were digital. Obviously, collection was one thing that we would have to have presence through either ourselves, third parties, and everything that we would have to solve for. So we went ahead and built all of that. So when we chose digital, it was a conscious choice because we didn't want to restrict ourselves in terms of one origination or the segment of people or region of people or industry of people that we want to cater to. Secondly, obviously, when we realize that if we go origination digital, then the rest of the processes like evaluating them in terms of data will also come digital to us. Thirdly, in fact, if we could digitize, like all our 100% of our customers are on NSCH. We don't have actually cash collection. We don't have, we do take PDCs as security, but otherwise all the customers have to be on NSCH only, online only, debit EMI. So that's what has to be there. And we realized that maybe we could get a better segment, better or a educated segment in that kind of class, and maybe we'll be able to do it pan India. So that was our thought when we started building digital. I think digital, like Sanjay sir suggested, has efficiencies, has strengths as well, but the digital also is a lot dependent on ecosystem. So a classic example I'll give you, right? Account aggregator, when it came in October 2016, I literally fell off my chair and said, "Was this would change the entire game altogether?" But it's been still 5 years, and we are still waiting for that to operationalize and materialize. India Stack, as it happened, it was like a dream come true of everything going online from eKYC, eSign, eNACH, but it's still, we are still moving across. So digital, when you're building, it obviously does need ecosystem support. It does need overall approach of adoption from the customers and everything. But I think COVID, sooner or later, we as a team have realized will work wonderfully well for us overall in terms of digital, because COVID will move towards digital piece of it. I think like Sanjay is suggesting, I think people were expecting us to get wiped out in these times, in COVID times, that these businesses will not perform well, these businesses will struggle and everything. My realization is that our borrowers, and like Sanjay sir's borrowers, are as prudent people as anybody else in the country, right? They are basically like me and all of us, who would as much think about their business and family and everything. And having these kind of businesses, overall, they've run their businesses, managing their businesses, taking moratoriums wherever required, needed, and still paying us back and doing wonderfully well. I'm sure, like for us, post-COVID, the new portfolio that we've been building, a lot of people have been saying it won't do good, but it's been doing wonderfully well overall. Whatever will go for restructuring is perfectly fine, but the new portfolio is doing very well. I'm sure Sanjay sir would have the same experience, that the people who are taking loan are very prudently using it and building it again. So that's there. So technology, Mridul, on your question, does have its benefits, but I think the gestation period for technology is also long. You continuously have to spend, build on it. Ecosystem requires to be developed overall. And I think, see, again, fintech, as we had discussed, that it's a large space. It's not a winner takes all space. So people will choose what parts of technology do they want to pick up, right? Somebody could pick up algorithms or in credit, somebody could pick up in origination, somebody could pick up in credit, and somebody could pick up overall all three of them, right? But the key part is, how do you then go about doing the execution, right? So I think what a lot of us don't focus on, and what we have realized as a team across the last 7 years, is finally everything boils down to customer NPS, right? If your customer is happy after taking a loan, he'll pay you back as well, he'll refer yourselves to somebody else and everything. And so for serving your customer, like Sanjay sir's customer, if he needs assistance, that's the best thing to provide him. If our customer is educated and online, if he doesn't need assistance, we should go digital with him overall. But finally, we should give him the rightful loan, have right satisfaction from him, help him in his business, and that is what is going to lead to growth of our businesses. So technology is a tool, technology is a way of doing business, technology can be a medium, everything is fine. But finally, I think all of us need to focus on serving our customers to the best possible way. And that's what will lead our customers and our businesses grow.
Great. No, I think that's a great way to summarize it, where, customer insights will lead and decide what and how you use technology. I'm both of you mentioned COVID, obviously, during this time where it's obviously been challenging on ground, but also an opportunity, as you said, for everyone around to adopt digital. I would love to get, since we're talking about SME, some on-ground commentary from you guys on how are SMEs dealing with it. We keep obviously hearing different stuff. You guys are the closest to the ground. Capital markets seem to be singing a very different song, clearly. But all of us will have different views around that. So would love to know, what are you seeing with SMEs on ground? You can slice it by geography, slice it by segments, or whichever way you feel is most comfortable. And then what implication does it have for anyone who's building businesses for SMEs?
Sure. So maybe I can go first, Mridul. No, I think Mridul, I think, see, I'll be very candid, right? When the COVID happened, it was pretty surprising, right? And I think none of us have seen something like this ever before, right? So assuming that we won't go to offices for 90 days and won't be moving out of our stay, our house compounds and everything for 30, 60, 90 days, I don't think anybody predicted it. I personally feel that this could be a tipping point for us, like compared to our northern neighbors, where see, a lot of time it's said that digital and technology is only picked up after a certain set of income level is reached, per capita income is reached, or certain level of technology infrastructure is there, maybe a 5G or a 4G in our country. But I think COVID is one thing which has pushed, right? I'll give you a simple example. Both my parents are above 70, right? And they started using payments platform in COVID overall, just that because they didn't want to touch and everything, right? I think we've got one of the best payment infrastructures in the world. I think overall ecosystem and government supporting it, right? UPI or for that matter, UPI, NPCI are doing great work. India Stack's coming up wonderfully well. The banks are picking up digital. Similarly, the digital mediums overall, right? I think in our country overall, I think Facebook, Google were always there. We used to work on SEO, SEMs, but now ShareChat, MX Player, and digital mediums are also coming up wonderfully well. So we have our daily hunts of the world. We have our own mediums as well, where we could communicate to our population. So that's also getting wonderfully built up. I don't see any reason of not picking up. And like Sanjay sir said, that 90% of the employed people in the country belong to the segment that we both are catering to, right? And these are the people who consume these things day in, day out. They are the people who consume payments. They are the people who consume this kind of media. They are the people who consume. And I think the aspiration is there. We have got one of the youngest populations in the world, right? I'll give you a simple example. My dad basically has been a senior professional overall. He's a practicing chartered accountant now. He used to work. So early days, when he was working, the idea was that when you have a certain amount, you then go ahead and buy a house for yourself, right? Rather than getting a car or something like that. The current generation that we have, the moment people get out of college, the first thing that they think of is a bike, car, or something, a communication, right? And the house comes much larger. So the needs, a vacation comes much earlier than a vacation used to be earlier, right? Earlier used to be family and then house and then vacations and then car and everything. So the needs and demands are changing. I think the current people, and I think our mindsets are also changing. We are willing to very much leverage ourselves, right? Our capability, our knowledge to borrow money and everything. So that's there. Another realization across COVID has been that I think in terms of natural disasters or anything that happens, right? It's a flood or it's a something like a typhoon or something. It basically destroys the infrastructure of a particular place, right? And then the government has to intervene. You have to spend tons of money to bring back that infrastructure, shops and everything in that place, right? Where SME infrastructure does go away. I think COVID, one thing that has it that once vaccination and everything's done, COVID will end, right? And we wouldn't have lost our capability of basically to produce more, right? So these SMEs are just waiting in their houses or in their shops to go unleash the demand. The demand is there from our, right? Last 4-5 months, basically what we've seen is, and I have family basically come from a textile kind of family, right? And my friend's family, everybody's been saying that post Diwali, November, December, Jan are kind of sales months, which nobody's ever seen, right? It's been tremendous sales, but that's a pent up demand, right? That's already there. So I think once COVID subsides, again, these demands will come up and the businesses will get back soon. GST happening, account aggregator and all those things are also, which are digitizing the data. So it kind of becoming a commodity overall. I don't see any particular reason for us not to bank. And I think, again, what's happening is, a lot of money has been printed in these times, right? To be precise, almost $10 trillion has got printed, which will get rotated, right? So there is going to be a lot of rotation of money in these times. A lot of these will result in demands. And that's one of the reasons why capital markets all over are buzzing, right? And that's on the precise. So we don't have that many tech-led businesses overall on our Sensexes, right? Over a portfolio of companies. But just look at the way companies in US are moving, right? That's because people are believing that in next 10, 20, 30 years, a lot of these tech companies will change the world, right? Or with the way world is doing that. Whether it's Elon sir's net worth valuation going up, it's very different to what production he is doing in his own company, or maybe for that matter, Amazon. I think that's where the factor in is that the demand is subdued due to this. But once it opens up, there will be business, and the core need is money circulation, which is already there in the system. So my belief is that capital markets is factoring all of that in, and once COVID is done, we will have a good run of business overall. And if the government is supportive, which they are, and if they have rightful policies for MSMEs and everything, and the aspiration to reach $5 trillion economy, we will have a good run. So that's all in the waiting. I think it could be good. But I think, again, one strong point that I want to emphasize is in fintech, and like Sanjay sir said, it's all about execution, right? Opportunity might be there, every customer might be there, everything is there. But you need to be very clear about your customer, his need, and how do you go about executing it. I meet a lot of entrepreneurs whose unit economics are not sorted, right? If your unit economics are not sorted, you, even if you have demand, everything's there, you will not make money in that business, right? So execution is going to be the key. The demand and the need will surely be there. That's my thought.
Sure. I think I agree with what Harsh just now said, that the impact of the disruption, the COVID disruption, wasn't as much as it was made out to be. And I think in many ways, India as a country surprised many. You know, there were lots of people across the world who thought that India will be one of the big problem areas. And we suddenly found that we didn't have as much of a problem. I think the story and on the ground level for the micro enterprises is something similar, where while a lot of people said that, you know, that there'll be tremendous disruption, a lot of people at the bottom have got impacted, but they have been resilient And they have been quick to accept that, they're going to only see 30-40% business initially, and now the business is up to 60% of the norm. And now it's gradually getting back to 80-90% and better times even. So I think they have stood by, and they have continued to pay whatever was the installment that had to be paid. RBI has helped by having a restructuring program so that they have to pay a smaller installment, and all these things have helped in difficult cases. But I remember that when COVID came in, we immediately analyzed the portfolio and said that which are the segments which are most likely to get impacted. And obviously, the manufacturing segment looked like the most likely to get impacted because they have the longest cash cycle. They have raw material, they have to sell it, they hold on raw material, etc. And when we did the analysis just a month back, we're finding that even the manufacturing sector has not done as badly for us as often you see in the bigger lending, or when you look at some of the data that's coming from banks, etc. Compared to that, our manufacturing segment has performed wonderfully well in a relative term, and primarily because I think their deployment in terms of the fixed capital deployed is very, very small, and they are frugal by nature. So I think that is what has helped. Now, in another marker that we kept on looking at is that how many people would abscond or will close their shop and just go away, so to speak. That percentage is phenomenally small. It's probably in the range of 1%, which in a 100-year disruption like this tells you that that the Indian psyche is that we don't want to carry a debt. And maybe it is that thinking that we should not carry the debt to the next life or whatever, but whatever it is, that segment that is there at the bottom doesn't want to not pay back that loan. I think they understand that this opportunity to get loans or funds from an organized player is a big opportunity for them. And if they don't manage it well, probably they will not see that benefit again. So I think they have been very prudent, and they have responded in a matured way. And I think it's also for companies like us to then extend a helping hand to them. RBI has given us the tools to do that. So all in all, it's been a performance which actually has surprised me also. When I look at it, we thought that we will do well, but we've done even better than what we started off with. So I think that shows the resilience of the Indian market.
That is indeed very true. I think the from this peak pressure we had in April, May to resilience we've seen, I think it's been quite amazing. I completely agree with that. Let me change gears a little and talk about some new innovative models coming due. I mean, I wouldn't say due to just COVID, but getting accelerated by COVID, right? And Sanjay, Harsh, both of you started out catering to this holy grail SME, not cracked by banks as a segment, by credit as the direct arrow to attack it with. Now we're seeing a fair amount of excitement around SME digitization overall, right? Whether it is generating demand from them and seeing Shopify in US or the whole Dukaan tech in India that we're talking about, or trying to digitize them for their financial tools. Sanjay, I remember 5-6 years back when we met first, you had that idea, but now we are seeing that play out, which is, can we give them accounting, invoicing as tools, or HRMS? So how do you think of these models? Because eventually in SMEs in India, I feel a lot of these will create engagement and acquisition. But then, as we like to joke internally, all roads lead to lending. So what for monetization, at least in India? So what are your thoughts around some of these different models to acquire SMEs through digitizing? Two, do you believe some bit of this you will do in your businesses, or would you rather collaborate or compete with businesses like these eventually?
I think, Mridul, that's an excellent point, and it's a forward-looking perspective that you're bringing in. That there are lots of players. You find the Paytm, the payment players, the payment-related players. They're also gradually gravitating to lending. You find those the Khata book types and the OK Credit players who are also saying that ultimately they will lend. The invoicing-related players, which again talk of getting into lending. So lending. It is no surprise that lending is the place that everyone is gravitating to, because lending, if done well, has very attractive margins. I remember when I started in banking, and I was working in a British bank. So the general humor was, they said that banking is they talked of a rule of 9, 6, and 3. They said that borrow money from customers at 6, lend it at 9%, and at 3 o'clock be at the golf course. So that was the life of a banker, the rule of 9, 6, and 3. So it was always very easy as a profession. But having said that, jokes aside, lending, if done well, can give you very attractive margins. And hence, it is not surprising that after burning a fair amount of money and getting some toehold of customer acceptance, a lot of these models are saying that the way to make money would be to pivot and start providing loans to customers. Lending is an attractive opportunity, but there is a bit of a warning that many have come and burned their hands at it. So it's not that simple either. And not just in India, but across the leading world economies, you can see examples of very large internet plays, technology plays where they did not make enough inroads into lending. So it will take a good effort from these players to build a stable and a sustainable large portfolio. Plus, lending is also a highly regulated field. So many of them are coming from an area where there's been very little regulation and they've been allowed to expand at dramatic pace. Ultimately, when you get into the lending sphere, you realize that whatever you want, so many things you want to do, but ultimately you have to do it at a pace that the regulator allows. I think Harsh mentioned a few things about how Aadhaar was so exciting. The entire jam pack was so interesting, but there are limitations which the regulator or the Supreme Court has imposed, and everyone has to follow that. So we'll have to get used to a higher price of compliance. They have to learn to swim in these seas, and I am sure that many of them will become successful. And because the lending is a very large opportunity, when you look at just the micro enterprise lending space, the estimate is that there is a 24 trillion gap. Now that is a gap that you need many unicorns to fill that gap. And I think you will see many of these players coming in. And I think ultimately, as I said right in the beginning, the important thing is good in your business. And our business is lending. It is not about providing khatas to people, etc. So if lending is where your money is being made, you've got to be very good at that. And anyone who is very good at that, whether they start the journey as a lender first, we can always move into the areas of that I talked about, or you can come from an area outside, and if your lending is good, you can make a big success of it. So ultimately, the play will happen, and my feeling is that you will see many successes from outside the lending environment, and you'll also see many of the lenders who are presently in the market do very well, and maybe also have some collaboration or working together with some of these entities. And you're very right. When we started, I had mentioned that we will start with lending and we'll move into these areas. It was the reverse that we are talking about. Now we are finding the opposite happening. People starting from those areas and coming into lending. So I think India is a very fertile place for innovation, and I'm sure that you'll see many successes on both sides.
I think Sanjay sir has mostly covered most of it, Mridul. So, Mridul, basically in any economy, right, and in a capital-starved economy like ours, right, two flows parallelly work. One is the cash or money rotation, and the second is goods rotation, right? So, even if you look at any startup business per se, right, even if you look at whether it's e-commerce, mobility, hyperlocal delivery, or anything, these are basically the businesses that are either making goods or services reach to the consumer, right, in some form or fashion. But then again, there is a money rotation also required over there, because the suppliers of those services, vendors, or either it could be in e-commerce sellers, or in mobility it could be drivers, or in delivery it could be restaurants or something like that. They need money and rotation, right? Similarly, for Indian businesses to grow overall, other than knowledge, wisdom of running their business, they need cash as well, and maybe they need support of services like a khata book, or basically support of services like an accounts platform or a payments platform, or somebody who can do web designing for them, everything. So these are all things parallel. Finally, what we are all trying to cater to, Mridul, is that customer. Catch hold of that customer, give him some service or some product that we can monetize and make money. Also, the second most important part is engagement. right? You need a continuous engagement with that customer, because a lot of times, like I said, right, in our loans as well, if you don't have rightful pricing in the first loan, you won't make money. So you won't make the loan money in the second. Suddenly you expand your bouquet of services and have more engagement with that customer, right, through accounting services, payment services, and everything, then you make money. So I think the first round of fintech innovation started with payment platforms in the company that started in early part of this decade. Then secondly, actually came us, who were actual lenders, who realized कि चलो lending से ही शुरू, we should start with lending, and iFinance, us and other companies did that basically. Then thirdly came basically the support services, or the neo services kind of providers basically, right? The idea was, see, again, when I said customer origination is not that easy for all of us. Customer origination and engagement is both that all of us will have to solve. Whether payments platform, they have customer acquisition much easier, but monetizing is difficult for them. For us, monetizing is much easier because we are directly giving a lending product and have far superior knowledge of that. But acquisition of customer comparatively becomes that difficult for us to grow. Similarly, for these neo or support services, again, the customer acquisition is much easier, but monetizing them again gets difficult, right? Because you are then catering to a typical Indian consumer who has certain needs and requirements, and his cash flows to pay you for a lot of services is not there, right? Today, you want to monetize a SaaS service with him and you want to charge a subscription model. It's not that going to be easy. But you suddenly link it to some product which serves his larger need, which increases his revenues, which increases his profits, right? Because today, what we realized is that if you go ahead and sell him an account services, right, you just tell him, pay me a subscription through that. And if you don't link it to revenue, profit, or growth, it's very difficult to monetize or for you to sell it to him. Suddenly you link it with a loan, it becomes an altogether different proposition. So when you said it, all roads lead to lending, lending is like I should say centuries or whatever old business, which is the one of the most businesses that would make money and everything. So I think the holy grail for all of us is to monetize. For certain parts of these businesses, they've got good at customer acquisition, but they need to then monetize and make money out of it. For us, we will have to solve the other way around. I think what I personally feel is that this is all part of growing up of ecosystem, right? Sooner or later, some of them will want to work with us. We will want to work with them and have a coexistence and solve for the problems. See, all of us are solving for the finally consumer, right? And if some things can help us increasingly serve the needs and wants of the consumer, right? So if today I give a loan to a particular consumer, and if I can on top of it layer it with an accounting service, right, which one again helps me get data, again helps me get subscription service, again helps me get something like that, or maybe an AA account aggregator kind of platform, payments kind of platform stuff, if I can layer on top of that, and if it becomes a wholesome ecosystem, then everybody grows in the ecosystem, and finally the consumer is better served, right? So these services will obviously coexist because there is a need for it. How do you go about monetizing it is a different question, which they will have to solve for it, right? And lending is a beautiful proposition, right? Lending does make money, and lending offers you. Only thing is, lending is a very longest transaction, right? It appears easy when you start the businesses, right? I think for first 2-3 years, almost we had negligible defaults on our book, right? So everybody was surprised. But you're growing, right? You're growing from 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, and like this on the month, right? And in a growing book, basically the defaults are not seen and stuff. So it's a learning phase. I think the good part is there is a lot of activity in the ecosystem for the consumer, which makes me a lot happy to see that when we started, this activity was not there, but now there are a lot of people who are trying to do multiple new things, trying to serve the consumer and everything. There will be amalgamation, there will be consolidation and everything. And finally, few people who are handling or having core strengths in their business overall will emerge as larger players. But I think that's how the ecosystem evolves as well. It's similarly done in developed economies as well, and it'll happen in India as well, and that's good, right? See, finally, all of us are trying to solve something for our Indian consumer, and if he's benefited by anything of this, we should all be pretty happy. So I think I am pretty happy and gung-ho that with this lot of activity, right? And again, I think I also feel that a lot of these people who now get into lending, right, will have their own learning curve. There is no way that that without making mistakes you can learn in lending, right? You will have to make all the mistakes to gain all the wisdom and learnings as well. So I think that's a good part. And the more choices consumer has, the more all of us are there to work together. The larger the ecosystem, the better for all of us.
No, I completely agree with you. I think two quick reactions to what both of you said. One is always, I like saying this, either you need gray hair to start lending, or your hair does get gray or during lending. So that is obviously a Herculean task. Sanjay has a comment.
I said gray hair or no hair.
I didn't want to say that. And the second one is, I think all of this is very encouraging. To your point, Harsh, I think if anything which unlocks access for SMEs in India, whether it's through paths to payments or digitization of their business or creating a network graph of data, I think it helps lenders and the other way around. And over time, I do believe there'll be a lot of collaboration. So this makes us feel, honestly, I feel quite excited about all of these developments. And
yes, exactly.
The world is Darwinian, so obviously not all of them will succeed, but there is going to be fair amount of success there.
I think, yeah, very rightfully said, Mridul, right? So I think, see, again, when all of us got into the startup world, the idea was to create certain needs and services which could serve the consumer, right? And like you said, it's Darwinian, right? And the best people will win. But I think it will not be the guys who survive, right? It will be the guys who took the plunge and built the ecosystem and let the guys survive. So hopefully, even if we don't survive, our contributions will be remembered. Or at least we'll be satisfied that we contributed to the ecosystem growing, right?
And I'm sure all of you are destined for a lot of success here. Should we have 8-9 minutes left? I have a bunch of questions from the audience. So should we just quickly move on to audience questions, unless there is something else you both feel we should address?
No, I think let's have a question. I'm perfectly fine. Sanjay sir, what's your?
I think let's move on.
Perfect. Sanjay. So I'll just go in the order of the questions coming. Feel free for both of you to address it or one of you to address it. So question one is, could you please talk about the difficulties both of you faced during COVID? What have your NPS looked like this year compared to pre-COVID?
See, I think I'll be brief that there have been difficulties, but I think with good planning and with of a lot of metrics, which naturally come because of the digital nature of the data that we keep, those have helped tremendously in keeping track of the business. Lending is a business that you can't take your eyes off. It's like cricket. You can't take your eyes off the ball. You'll get hit. And I think that's very true here. And it's a daily, weekly review that helps. And I think in terms of NPS, let me just say that even today, our NPS are at a level where most banks would love to have businesses like these.
Sure. I think Sanjay sir made a very valid point. I think April and May, we were kind of going through our own turmoil and troubles and thought processes. But that's where the realization happened that this might not be exactly a time to judge ourselves, our businesses, and our consumers, right? And I've been since then telling my team, guys, don't worry, right? This is not the prudent time to either judge ourselves, our performances, and our company, and maybe our borrowers as well, right? All of us are going through troubled times. All of us haven't been to our businesses for 90 days, and suddenly you, when the moratorium picks up, you want him to pay his EMIs. Would that happen? No, right? If we and again, our thought is, if we have given them in full prudent faith, right, and trust, overall we have given him money, we still need to give him time to start paying it back, right? It's not that the people who took money which we gave relying on our processes and our strengths suddenly turned bad in 3 months time, 4 months time, right? The guy doesn't change, and he's got a family like us, he's got a background like us. It's not that, right? So I think that's where, guys, personally, I've been telling team members overall and ecosystem as well that maybe this is not the time exactly to judge ourselves, right? This is once in a century kind of an event. If there are people who won't pay us, maybe we should go ahead and still support them. So for us, like early April, May, June, we contacted all our customers, spoke to them, how their families were doing. We had insurance for them. We helped them through that. And we've been interacting, engaging with them. Like Sanjay sir said, our numbers have been very, very good overall compared to the expectations we had. Overall, but I think these are part of businesses, right? Even if we have some extra losses coming in this year or in coming years. It's part of loss, and I think that's a good learning. But that doesn't basically mean that we start evaluating or judging, right? See, I think the basic reason why we got into this business was that the small businesses did not have access to finance, and we wanted to serve them, right? So that's what our realization has been, not to judge them or our business right now, and let time take its own course. And I'm sure we will all come out strong out of this.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I'll just move on to the next one quickly. The next question is, with significant businesses moving to e-commerce, are you concerned about the demand? I suppose it's about demand for SMEs businesses.
Yeah. See, I think the answer is very short there, that I talked about that there is a gap of 24 trillion rupees. Now, that's the sort of gap that exists, which I don't think, and not many people are moving to e-commerce. Yes, I think in this segment of micro enterprises, it's not as if there's a move towards e-commerce. People are trying, and I hope that many of them do move. But I think there's a very huge demand, and it will stay. I think we have not even scratched the 1% of that demand yet. So, not a problem.
I think I agree with Sanjay sir. Guys, the size and scale we are, I don't think we should worry about macroeconomic trends so much, right? I think if we had been at 2-3 lakh crore each of us, then we might have thought about it. But till we are at least 5-10% of the ecosystem, we should not be worrying about it.
Got it. I think we have time for only a couple of more questions. So quickly, one question is, how's technology being used in the collection space when lending to SMEs?
See, on collection, I mentioned an example where we said that it's predicting who's likely to bounce. You can predict once people bounce, how difficult are they going to be in collection. You can predict whether a case that has gone into an NPA, whether there's a possibility of recovery, what's the probability of recovery from in that case. So many areas, collection is one wonderful area to deploy machine learning, because otherwise it was all judgment. It used to be that I judge, I think ye customer pay karega, this guy will not pay. Now it can all be made into a science. We can look at the past history and we can actually start predicting. So I think there's a tremendous scope there. In fact,
I totally agree.
If any of you is thinking of doing a business, that's one good area to do to set up a business model.
I totally agree with Sanjay sir, because I think there's a lot of data that comes out in collection space as well, right? Depending on industry, depending on geography, depending on which industry, age bracket, and everything, right? So there could be people, depending on, just giving a simple example, if cotton production in the country is low in a particular year, right? So in that year, all the people related to textiles to cotton might have their turnover schedules and everything. So if you basically track the macroeconomic trends, you will know that part of your portfolio might go a little bit through stress or strain. Similarly, if assume that construction materials are going through the roof in terms of cost, right? Steel, cement, and everything, then that portion of people, the business will be far more higher than compared to what they would want. So all these rationalizations, all this data is now very readily available. So in terms of, we normally think of data only as for underwriting, but I think the best of the best companies, and like Sanjay suggested, will also use it for origination and collections, right? And data exactly will be more guiding light of how our consumers behave, what we can serve them more. So I think this is a very, very good area. I think a lot of lenders are doing it, but like Sanjay said, this is a good business proposition if somebody wants to do a fintech startup as well.
Let me know when you guys find one.
Sure.
Last question, given we have just a couple of minutes, would co-lending model continue, or SME fintechs would continue to prefer lending from own balance sheet?
I think both models have their positives. My sense is that co-lending will become a lot more common. But I think if you look at the past, have NBFCs survived despite not being allowed not to take customer deposits? NBFCs have survived. So I think that will continue. There will be NBFCs which will continue, or fintech players which will continue to have their own balance sheets and do it very well with efficiency. And I think many will move over to co-lending.
Yeah. So, Mridul, I think, see, when we start talking about digitization, capital efficiency, right, becomes one of the key cornerstones of building businesses. I think co-lending is the holy grail of capital efficiency for an NBFC, right? You can leverage yourself 3 times, 4 times, but suddenly you start moving to a co-lending model and you can leverage yourself more because the margin money required overall is comparatively lower. I think what's happening, Mridul, as data becomes more and more accessible, as you are able to project. So one of the critical things for a co-lender is to have as much information available to a lender, right? And whether he underwrites it, understands it or not is important. But maybe if that kind of access to information is now becoming digital, right? A lot of us have launched platforms that can give that kind of information accessibility. You can have real-time or near real-time information available to them about their portfolio and everything. So co-lending will become, and my personal thought is that, see, money pots will be very different from the people who kind of own and build technology, right? The money pots will be the largest of the banks, the largest of the institutions, or large corporate groups as well, right? Who have been there. And if you look at traditional history of NBCs in the space, which have grown in size and scale, they've been all come from large corporate houses, right? Who've done it for their own in-house supply chain and everything. But those guys have access to capital and everything. But I think technology and startups, so co-lending is gonna be the cornerstone overall of, and that's how the efficient ecosystems build themselves as well, right? The people will have their own capabilities in terms of tech origination, conversion, and collections, and people will have their capabilities in terms of capital and the cost of capital they can bring. So my assessment is that it should boom up in coming years as data and accessibility data becomes much more easier, and people will move towards that.
Awesome. Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. I think we are right on dot at 6 p.m. So I would love to wrap this up now. Thank you so much, Sanjay and Harsh, for the insights, and hope everyone found this useful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mridul. It was a very...
thanks a lot, Mridul, and thanks, Sanjay sir, and thanks a lot, guys, for inviting us on this wonderful discussion.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care, guys. Bye, guys. Bye.